We're going to discuss now the latest, as well as Israel's new law that legalises the death penalty for Palestinians. So joining me on the programme is National Director for Standing Together, Alon-Lee Green. Standing Together describing itself as a progressive movement organising Jewish and Palestinian citizens of Israel against the occupation and for peace, equality and social justice. Thanks very much for being with us on the programme. First of all, as a pro-peace organisation, what's your reaction to what Israel's been doing over the last 24 hours in Lebanon?
Well, we call the ceasefire with Iran to include a ceasefire with Lebanon. We call to seize the bombardments and to stop this false war completely. It's a war that shouldn't have been initiated in the first place. It is a war that jeopardized not only the people of the Middle East, Iran, of course, the Lebanese, of course, but also deeply harmed the people in Israel. We're talking about dozens of civilians that have been killed, hundreds of homes that have been destroyed, thousands of people being injured, and of course, an economy that has been shattered, millions of kids that have been running to shelters in the middle of the night. This is not what security looks like. What is going on in Lebanon right now, the declaration of a new military campaign in Lebanon. By the way, the name of it is Eternal Darkness, as if it's taken from a villain's movie. This new campaign in Lebanon will not bring us security. It will not disarm Hezbollah. And it's not only me saying it, it is actually the officials of the IDF saying that a military campaign by itself will not disarm Hezbollah. For that, we need to do what the Israeli government is avoiding doing on any front, which is diplomacy.
So how do you persuade, how do you force, if necessary, from your point of view, the Israeli government to stop its attacks?
So first of all, standing together with a lot of other forces in the last 5 or 6 weeks, almost, we're in the streets. We have a growing protest of Israelis calling to end the war on all fronts. I need to remind you that this is the second Iran war, and it's the same time we are having the fourth Lebanese war, and who knows how many Gazan war, and in the same time there are the pogroms and the violence in the West Bank. We are protesting to end this forever war, a war that is kept alive by our government because our government needs the violence to continue. They need the war, the atrocities, the killings to continue, to pass their anti-democratic laws in Israel, to preserve their power in Israel, to pass laws like the death penalties to the Palestinians that they just passed a week ago. So we are protesting, and we also try to push our own opposition. You just spoke about what Yair Lapid have said, and he's right. This is a failed war. Netanyahu did not achieve any of the objectives that he said are the objectives of the war, but Yair Lapid and Yair Golan and the rest of the opposition in Israel supported this war. So I think the role that we're playing right now in Israel is to bring more and more forces into the camp that is resisting the war, that is calling to go on the opposite way, which is the way of ending the occupation of Palestinians in Israel, of achieving equality and freedom and safety to all the people in Israel. When we will have Israeli-Palestinian peace, this will be the key to also achieve a Middle East regional peace and to be done with all these ongoing wars that are bringing safety to no one.
Many of your countrymen and women, of course, still do support Benjamin Netanyahu. You may be completely against him. How do you try to persuade them that what Netanyahu is doing, what the Israeli government is doing, is not acceptable?
Well, first of all, the reality is our best tool to do that. I think that the discussion since yesterday, since the ceasefire that Trump announced, is a discussion of failure, is a discussion of Netanyahu not being able to deliver. I want you to think that a person that goes into a press conference that tries to convince you that we actually won and achieved something, is kind of obvious that we didn't win and we didn't achieve anything. And I think that the discussion also amongst Netanyahu voters is a very interesting one, because they know that they paid a terrible price with dozens of casualties, with going to sleep in shelters for weeks now. And for what? For having Iran even stronger than before, for not disarming the nuclear abilities of Iran, for having the nuclear talks on the table, for having the ballistic missiles still operating and Iran able to shoot thousands and still able to do that after this war. Just 8 months ago, Netanyahu ended the last Iran war with a declaration that this is a historic victory, that we won over the nuclear program of Iran, that we disarmed the ballistic missiles abilities of Iran. If it's that of a historic victory, how come we need to go 8 months after to another war with Iran? And how come we ended this war with Iran right now without achieving anything? I think this reality is a tool to convince people that this war is not only harming the people in the Middle East, it's also harming the people of Israel. And we need to remember to connect the interest of all the people living in the Middle East to one strong story of the need to end the occupation, the war, the apartheid in the West Bank, to be living in a reality that is worth living. This is not a good reality for the Israelis.
Well, wanted to talk to you as well. At the same time as the war continues, there are also ongoing protests in the West Bank, notably over the new law which was brought in Israel that legalises the death penalty for Palestinians convicted of murdering Israelis. The penalty just that way round, not applying to Israelis. Much anger there over that?
Yes, I think that we are happy to see that most of the Israeli opposition resisted this law and voted against it. And I think a lot of Israelis are waking up to see the terror in the West Bank, the Jewish terrorism, the settler terrorism in the West Bank, and then asking, wait, if we just legislated a law that says that there is a death penalty, something we resist as a principle to anyone. But if we just legislated a law that puts a death penalty over people that acted with terrorism, but then another person will do the same crime, but will not be applied to this law, then this is a discriminative, racist, and apartheid law. And I think that this is something that makes a lot of Israelis resist this law. Unfortunately, there's also a lot of support to this law. It is easy for the government to say the only thing that will intimidate the Palestinians from hurting us, from attacking us, for doing terrorism is this law. I read that most of the security officials in Israel do not agree with this law. They say it will not intimidate any Palestinian. And we need to understand that there are millions of Palestinians living under Israeli military rule for decades. They have no freedom. They have no state. They have no citizenship, no passport, no rights. This is the reality that creates violence. This is the reality that we're all paying a price for.
So how do you challenge it then?
I think by speaking about peace. I think that after 3 full years of war that included also genocidal war for the Palestinians in Gaza, 20,000 Palestinian children that died, 80,000 Palestinians that lost their lives in two years, but also a price that Israelis paid in Israel, lacking the ability to live a normal life. So many people speaking about immigrating out of Israel, not being able to imagine a future here in Israel. I think this is a way to challenge this reality and the support to this reality also from the Israeli perspective. And I think standing together is trying to be an internal actor within the society, speaking also about losing our moralities, about the terrible crimes that we're committing, war crimes that we're committing towards the Palestinians, but not forgetting for 1 second that it is also a fight for our self-interest as Israelis to live in a reality of peace, of security, of a quiet life, a normal life. I think we're trying to connect these two aspects together. And this is a strategy not only to convince the world that we're right, but also to convince the Israelis that we hold the interest to end this reality.
Good to talk to you on the programme today. Alon-Lee Green joining us there from, he's National Director of Standing Together. Thanks very much.